Have you ever reached the end of a day, sat in the quiet and wondered, why am I still doing the same bad habits I swore I would quit last year? And the year before that? Maybe it's staying up too late, scrolling through your phone. Maybe it's procrastinating on that one important task because just 5 more minutes of something else feels easier. Or maybe it's spending money on things that give you a quick thrill, but no lasting value. Deep down, you know these habits are slowly pulling you away from the life you want, yet they cling to you like invisible chains, holding you back from the person you could become. This isn't a new struggle. Thousands of years ago, men and women wrestled with the same internal battles, the same tug of war between short-term comfort and long-term growth. Among them was a group who found a way out of the loop, the Stoics. They didn't try to erase bad habits through sheer willpower alone. They replaced them with better ones, habits built on discipline, clarity, and self-mastery. For them, philosophy wasn't a book on a shelf. It was a daily practice, a way of living that transformed every choice into an opportunity for growth. They understood that the mind hates a vacuum. When you simply quit something, it will look for something else to fill the gap. But if you choose intentionally, you can fill that space with habits that bring peace, strength, and pride. Today, we're going to uncover 3 Stoic habits you can begin right now to not only remove the bad habits quietly stealing your potential, but also replace them with practices that make you proud when you look back. And perhaps just a few weeks from now, you'll realize your life has taken a completely different trajectory. One where you wake up each day lighter, clearer, and more in control. Bad habits don't always announce themselves like a loud crash. They creep in quietly, disguising themselves as harmless little routines. And before you know it, they've built walls around your potential. You tell yourself it's just one night of staying up late, but then you wake up groggy, skip the gym, rush through breakfast, and carry that sluggishness into every decision of the day. Or maybe it's just one impulse purchase that feels good in the moment, but leaves you checking your bank account with regret. The real cost of bad habits isn't the single moment they happen. It's the compound effect they have over weeks, months, and years. Like compound interest in reverse, each repetition quietly drains your energy, focus, confidence, and opportunities. They don't just waste time, they rob you of identity. You stop seeing yourself as disciplined, capable, or strong, and start seeing yourself as the kind of person who can't stick to anything. And that identity seeps into every choice you make, creating a loop that's hard to break. The Stoics would say that every wasted moment is a theft from the life you could be living. Not because life must be perfect or efficient at all times, but because every choice shapes who you are becoming. Seneca warned about this in his letters. While we are postponing, life speeds painfully. When you postpone your best self with small compromises, you're not just delaying progress. You're building a version of yourself that will be harder to change later. The hidden cost of bad habits is also mental clutter. When you know there are things you should be doing but aren't, your mind becomes a battleground between intention and action. You start the day already in debt, not financially, but psychologically, owing yourself the discipline you didn't deliver yesterday. That inner debt compounds too, showing up as stress, anxiety, and even shame. And here's the most dangerous part. Bad habits often disguise themselves as relief. Scrolling endlessly feels like escape from stress, but it steals the time you could use to actually solve the stress. Skipping the hard conversation feels like avoiding discomfort, but it creates more tension in the long run. The cost isn't just the life you're living now, it's the life you'll never get to live if these patterns continue unchecked. The job you won't get because you didn't prepare. The relationship that fades because you didn't nurture it. The health you lose because you didn't protect it. This is why the Stoics believe that breaking bad habits isn't about moral perfection. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your power to choose the life you want. And the truth is, you won't erase bad habits by focusing on what you can't do. You'll do it by replacing them with something stronger. Something that actually serves you. That's where the Stoic way begins. The Stoics lived in a world without smartphones, fast food, or streaming platforms. Yet they understood the human struggle with bad habits better than most modern psychologists. They knew that the root of destructive patterns wasn't the temptation itself. It was our relationship with our thoughts and impulses. Epictetus taught that we are disturbed not by events, but by our judgments about them. In other words, the problem isn't that you crave another slice of cake or another hour of Netflix. It's the story you tell yourself about why it's okay, why it can wait until tomorrow, why it's not really a big deal. The Stoic path to breaking bad habits begins with self-awareness, the discipline to catch yourself in the moment before you act on autopilot. Marcus Aurelius would journal daily, not as a ritual of productivity, but as a mental training ground to examine his choices, to ask himself whether they aligned with the kind of man he wanted to be. This wasn't about guilt, it was about clarity. Stoicism teaches that our time is our most valuable resource, and wasting it on meaningless actions is worse than losing money because money can be earned back, but time cannot. Seneca reminded us that life is long if you know how to use it. Yet we spend hours in distraction as if we have an infinite supply. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance as the compass for every decision. Temperance, the virtue of self-control, is the antidote to instant gratification. When you practice temperance, you don't give in to every craving, not because you're punishing yourself, but because you understand that saying no in the short term creates a bigger yes for your future. Stoicism also reframes failure. Instead of letting one slip-up spiral into shame, the Stoics viewed every moment as a chance to return to the path. If you stayed up too late last night, don't waste today beating yourself up. Use today as proof that you can make a different choice. This mindset is powerful because it shifts the focus from perfection to persistence. Modern science now backs up what the Stoics knew intuitively. Habits are forged through repetition, and every decision is a vote for the person you are becoming. If you want to replace bad habits, you must become the kind of person who sees every action as an opportunity to practice virtue. That's the Stoic connection. It's not about white-knuckling your way through life, resisting every pleasure. It's about living deliberately so that every small choice builds towards a life you respect. When you see your time as precious, your values as non-negotiable, and your mistakes as lessons instead of failures, you stop being a prisoner to bad habits. You start becoming the architect of your life. The Stoics never wrote a self-help manual, but their lives were living proof that simple, disciplined practices could transform not just what you do, but who you become. If bad habits are the weeds choking your potential, then these 3 Stoic practices are the daily gardening tools to pull them out and plant something better. The first is negative visualization, a paradoxically powerful way to appreciate and protect what matters. Marcus Aurelius would often remind himself of loss, not in a morbid way, but to sharpen his gratitude and clarify his priorities. Imagine the cost of keeping your bad habit for another year, the opportunities you'd miss, the energy you'd drain, the relationships you might weaken. See it vividly. If your bad habit is overspending, visualize the future where debt becomes a chain around your freedom. If it's procrastination, picture the projects you never finish, the potential you bury. When you see the worst-case scenario, you stop telling yourself it's harmless and start feeling the urgency to change. The magic is that negative visualization also makes you value the present more. When you recognize what you could lose, you fight harder to protect it. The second is the discipline of assent. Epictetus taught that not every thought deserves your agreement. When a craving, impulse, or self-defeating belief arises, don't automatically give it the keys to your actions. Pause. Challenge it. Ask, is this within my control? Does this align with my values? If the answer is no, you let it pass like a cloud in the sky. This practice is a mental filter. It stops the bad habit before it becomes behavior. Modern psychology calls this urge surfing. You ride out the wave of decaron without acting on it, knowing it will peak and fade. The Stoics mastered this long before neuroscience gave it a name. They understood that between stimulus and response, there is space, and in that space, you have the power to choose. Every time you withhold your assent to a harmful thought, you strengthen the muscle of self-control, and that muscle makes the next good choice easier. The third is daily reflection. The quiet, consistent review of your actions, not to judge yourself harshly, but to calibrate your compass. Seneca advised that every night before bed, you should go through your day in your piete eton. What bad habit did I resist? Which one resisted me? Where did I fall short, and where did I improve? This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Imagine a pilot making small course corrections every hour. Without them, the plane drifts hundreds of miles off track. Daily reflection works the same way for your character. It turns vague goals like, "I'll stop procrastinating," into specific feedback. Today, I avoided starting my report because I felt overwhelmed. Tomorrow, I'll break it into smaller steps. Over time, this builds self-awareness so sharp, it's almost like having an inner coach, guiding you away from the old patterns and into new, better ones. What's beautiful about these three practices is how they reinforce each other. Negative visualization creates the emotional clarity. You see what's at stake if you keep your bad habits. The discipline of assent gives you the in-the-moment defense. You catch and filter out the thoughts that would drag you back. Daily reflection gives you the long-term strategy. You learn from each day and adapt. When you combine them, you don't just break bad habits. You replace them with deliberate, values-driven action. Let's make it practical. Say you want to stop mindless social media scrolling. In the morning, you practice negative visualization. You picture the months wasted, the books unread, the experiences missed because your eyes were on a screen. Later that day, when you feel the impulse to check your phone, you use the discipline of assent. You notice the thought, "I'm bored, I'll just scroll," and ask, "Is this within my control? Does this help me live the life I want?" You say no and you put the phone down. That night, you use daily reflection. You note that resisting was easier when your phone was in another room, so you decide to make that your default. Repeat that for weeks and the bad habit fades, replaced by something richer. Or imagine overspending. Each morning, negative visualization helps you see the financial chains that will tighten if you don't change, the vacations you won't take, the security you won't have. In the store, the discipline of assent catches the thought, "I deserve this," and replaces it with, "I deserve freedom more." That night, daily reflection reveals the moments you were most tempted, helping you plan safeguards for tomorrow. Slowly, your money choices stop being emotional reactions and start being intentional investments in your future. The Stoics weren't monks locked in ivory towers. They were emperors, soldiers, merchants, and teachers, people who lived in the chaos of real life. Their habits weren't abstract theories. They were survival skills. Marcus Aurelius didn't write in his journal for an audience. He wrote to anchor himself against the storms of distraction, desire, and ego. Epictetus didn't preach control over your mind because it sounded noble. He had lived as a slave and knew that the only true freedom comes from mastering your thoughts. Seneca didn't warn against wasting time because he wanted to sound wise. He saw how quickly life slips away when we drift. That's why these practices are timeless. They don't depend on apps, hacks, or willpower alone. They depend on you choosing to live as if your life matters, because it does. Breaking bad habits isn't about punishment. It's about reclaiming the hours, energy, and focus you've been giving away. It's about living so that when you look back a year from now, you see a clear line of small, deliberate choices leading you somewhere you're proud to be. And every day you practice, you make that line stronger. The truth is, you already have everything you need to replace your bad habits. You have time, you have the ability to pause, and you have the capacity to learn from each day. The Stoics just hand you the blueprint. Negative visualization makes you grateful and focused. The discipline of assent makes you steady and intentional. Daily reflection makes you adaptable and wise. Put them together and your bad habits don't stand a chance. You stop drifting, you start building. And that's how you live a life not just free from bad habits, but full of the ones that actually carry you toward the person you've always wanted to be. So here's the truth. Breaking free from your bad habits isn't a someday project. It's not something you start when life feels less chaotic, when you have more time, or when motivation magically appears. That day never comes. The only day you ever have is today. Right now, you are standing at a fork in the road. Zaman. Down one path, you keep the habits you've always had, and you get the life they have always given you. The same frustrations, the same excuses, the same slow erosion of your potential. Down the other path, you take what the Stoics have given you: negative visualization, the discipline of assent, and daily reflection. And you start replacing the habits that steal from you with ones that build you. And here's the thing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't need to change everything overnight. You just need to make one choice today that your future self will thank you for. One less scroll, one more pause before reacting, one honest reflection before bed. These are small moves, but they compound into a different life. If you've been waiting for a sign to begin, this is it. Don't just watch this and nod along. Put it into action. Tonight, write down one bad habit you're done carrying into tomorrow. Commit to practicing just one of the Stoic tools we talked about. And if you're ready to go deeper, to surround yourself with people who are also trading bad habits for a life of purpose and clarity, hit that subscribe button, join the conversation in the comments, and share this with someone you know is fighting the same battles. Remember, you are not your bad habits. You are the sum of the choices you make next. Make them count.